And there we are, once again, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome. I'm Dave Williams, your host from findyournewnormal.com. I'm really glad you're here. Every week we talk about the variety of issues that cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers face on their journey from the beginning of diagnosis into treatment programs, post-treatment programs, and until they get into that state of wellness and vitality. I look at the world through the eyes of a cancer survivor, and so I tend to try and find interesting guests and areas that we can talk about that are of interest to our audience. And every week, I am so grateful that I have a wonderful co-host, Gina Costa-Goldfarb, who's somewhere on the screen. Blab always, places you somewhere, and on replays, it's different than what I think. But Gina's here to say hello and get us ready before we introduce our guest to you. Over to you, Gina.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here today with you, Dave, and especially with Hayley. It's really going to be a good show today. So anyway, I'm Gina Costa-Goldfarb, and I am the owner and founder of New Beginnings Coaching Services, which is Gina at newbeginningswithgina.com. And what I do is I help survivors and caregivers cope with the emotional and physical challenges so that they can regain confidence and control of their lives and, create new beginnings after cancer or even through cancer. And, and it's not only about the cancer experience, it's about how we can apply the lessons learned in life to or from that experience to our life. So it's really about turning our negative experiences into positive ones and, creating new beginnings. So that's what I'm all about. And I'm just so interested in what Hayley has to share today. So let's pass it over to her, Dave.
We've got a lot of ground to cover, and it's an interesting topic. And I think it fits into, well, again, this is March the 2nd. So we're now into the second day of Colon Awareness Month. It's the month that we really look at dealing with issues surrounding the colon, and I'm going to really see if we can see what Hayley has to talk to colon survivors. But it's also Kidney Awareness Month, which is interesting because last week I formally lost my left kidney due to cancer radiation. So now I'm concerned with cancer or with liver issues or kidney issues. And that brings up this new beginning, as Gina calls it, because I constantly seem to be in a state of new beginning. I don't stabilize. And that's one of the reasons why I was excited when Hayley agreed to come and join us today, because she has an integrative health orientation. She's trained in a number of different areas, which you'll explain in a moment, that deal with nutrition, which so many of our guests have focused in on. But she also looks at lifestyle change and really the stress management side, because she has a philosophy that you want to live the most joyful, happy, healthful life that you can. And there's a sort of a set of issues that you've got to be aware of and pop into your life so that you can deal with it. And because cancer is a disease that seems to be with you forever. It is with me. I can't seem to just say, oh, that part of my life is over. There's always something that comes back at you that you've got to adjust to. And the feelings of loss of control and feelings of anxiety and stress constantly lurk their little head up, and you've got to go deal with it. So I'm really pleased that Hayley could join us because she, like Gina and I, is also a cancer survivor. And through that journey that she had with cancer, she ended up setting up her own company, Revive Wellness, and calls herself a cancer recovery coach, which was the tagline that I really liked. It wasn't just a health coach or a general wellness coach. It was a recovery coach, which, again, I'm biased because I think I'm constantly in recovery. So I wanted to talk to someone who could help me on this path of recovery. So there you go, Hayley. Both Gina and I are eager to listen to you, as our wonderful audience with us today. So say hello and tell people more about you.
Well, hi, everyone, and I'm so glad to be here. I really appreciate it. Really, how I got to do what I do now is through my health journey. About 18 years ago, actually, it's coming up in April, I found out that I had a tumor on my ovary and that I would need surgery to remove it. And the doctors at the time didn't know if it was cancer, but I remember going in for surgery and waking up to my husband's face, this close to me, just right in my face, as he said, "You have to survive." And I later found out that I had stage 3 ovarian cancer. And it went to, it spread to my colon and my appendix. So after 2 surgeries and 3 rounds of chemotherapy, where I would stay in the hospital for 5 days, I was getting discharged, and the oncologist was there and the nurse, and they said to me, "Congratulations, you're cancer-free." And I knew that I should be celebrating, but I was more terrified than ever. I just had this unsettled feeling. There were tons of questions going through my mind. I asked them, what can I do to avoid recurrence? And is there any kind of diet changes I can make? Support groups, anything, and they really had no answers for me. And it was then that I knew that I was going to have to take control over my own health. So, he said, "I'll see you in 3 months." And I went home and I made a lot of changes in my life. I just soul searched, and I really thought about what I wanted in my life, who I wanted to be surrounded by. I studied lots of nutrition, went to different classes and lectures and anything I can absorb information-wise, I was doing it, because I just knew I did not want to go through this again. So all these years later, I became a certified health coach, actually, but I call myself a cancer recovery coach, because I work with people who have finished treatment for cancer and, like me, have fear around recurrence. And I help them just live a life that is full of joy, health, and vibrancy. And I feel better than I ever did in my 20s and 30s. And I am just so grateful, and I want to help as many people as I can feel the same.
And that's amazing that you can go through a journey that you've gone through and then come out the other end wanting to be of service to others. I was just listening to a cancer podcast from the UK. They just launched from Maggie's Center here this month in February. And they were talking about fears and isolation and distance and all the psychosocial issues that many of us face. And you certainly were there and have come out the other end and now are helping other people deliver or deal with those kinds of issues. And for those in the audience, put your questions along the side. Gina and I will be watching the stream of thoughts coming from you. If you put a /Q and then your question, it will show up for us over on the left-hand side, and we can bring your question front and center. And then in just a few minutes, we'll open up the other available seat for those of you that want to come on camera and talk about what Hayley is bringing to us. When you talk, Hayley, about recurrence, how have you helped people deal with that? Because that's something that I'm telling you, every day, no matter what it is, I've got a sniffle, I've got an ache, I've got whatever, and I'm saying, oh, cancer's coming back. Oh, I better call my oncology team. I'm just waiting for cancer to reoccur, and not necessarily colon cancer. Hey, they took 3 feet of colon out. It's the other consequences and second cancers, as they call it, that, have removed my prostate, removed my bladder, now removed my kidney. I'm sitting there constantly saying, hey, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to get my head straight? What generally do you do with a person like me who shows up on your doorstep and says, hey, I have some anxiety about this?
Well, first, I tell people to use their fear for a catalyst for change. When we feel that we're in control of our health, the fear tends to dissipate. And, really, I work with people on the nutritional level, but also the emotional mindset is huge, because if you are thinking negative thoughts all the time, you won't want to make the changes that is needed. And stress management, like you mentioned before, is a large piece of the puzzle. People are scared of recurrence, and plus they have their everyday lives to deal with, and kids and work and all kinds of things. So, I really work with them on all those pieces.
Do you go into I'm going to say unusual, it's not unusual, but alternative methodology? I mean, yesterday you and I met Carla, and we were into laughter meditation. And there we were for 15 minutes going crazy laughing, and then going into a meditation afterwards. I don't know about you, but I certainly relaxed from that, which caught me off guard. I didn't think that extending the laughing would change my body chemistry enough that it just brought me down to a state of calm meditation. That was an amazing, quick technique that we got to get Carla on to demonstrate for all of us. Is that something you could imagine using to help patients deal with the issues that they're facing?
Oh, absolutely. And I do give them meditations, and we do visualizations. We have them write letters on what they want their new healthy life to look like. And, when you're dealing with cancer, as you know, there's a lot to process. And, for example, me, I knew I didn't have more children. And so you go through that grieving process of, a missing body part, or the fact that you can't have any more children. So there's a lot to deal with. And, one of the exercises I think helps people a lot is a free form releasing exercise, where you journal for 4 days on something that happened to you. It could be your cancer experience. It could be something else that you think is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And because it's so important to release all these negative emotions. So, when I say change your mindset, it doesn't mean, oh, just think positive and everything's fine.
Oh, sure it does. Yeah, just think positive. That's easy. Done.
Exactly. It's so important to feel your emotions and release them. So, and we'll ask with these questions in mind when you're journaling, how did this serve me and my growth? The details of what happened and what I learned from it. And if you do this 4 days in a row, it is really powerful. People have gotten great results with that. And that's just one example, but I wanted to give you a take-home, people in the audience.
Well, you're right in Gina's wheelhouse. Go for it, Gina. That's one of your mantras.
Yeah. So I love that, Hayley. I mean, it's definitely about, getting getting into the emotions, not necessarily sweeping them under the rug, but, kind of being with them. And it's okay to be there, but we don't want to necessarily live there. And definitely, mindset. So, again, just not being positive, but really kind of retraining our brains to change our thoughts and our old habits and old beliefs. And then, so you also said something, so how, asking our clients, how are those thoughts really serving us? And I mean, and I'm sure that you share with your clients that when we have those stressful or negative thoughts, they have an impact on our body as well. So there's even more reason to change to a positive mindset. And, for me, and it sounds like for you as well, the goal with my clients is to kind of create overall well-being, not, in all areas of their life. So, it's an application they can put elsewhere.
Absolutely.
Steffi's just leading the two of you right into the point that you're making, and that is, well, where do people's life goals get set when you're sitting there working with them? What is it that you do with them to establish a plan that they can work towards?
Oh, that's a great question. And, really, I start off with my clients just finding out what they do on a daily basis. So, what they eat, what their activity level is, and we make a customized plan that works for them. And, in terms of diet, what works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. So I have researched anti-cancer foods. I know what to tell people to take, but if it doesn't agree with them, then, we have to look at that. So that's, very, very important. It's very customized. Now we set small actionable steps each time we meet. Baby steps, because as you know, it's hard to make changes. It's hard for anyone, let alone cancer survivors. So, one example is just eating a variety of colors every day, and not artificial colors. That's in the produce aisle. Just pick 3 or 4 different colors, blues, reds, yellows, and add that to your diet. And then the next time we meet, we add something else. So it's small incremental steps, and I'm there to support people 100%.
And you've got to make food fun with colors. I mean,
exactly.
To show you how strange I am, for lunch today with my sandwich, I made a happy face out of 2 olives and a smile of mustard. So I had green and yellow right there, so
I love that.
that just brought a smile to my face, which helped me, deal with the issues of the day. It's great. Colors are good and fun is good. And it's about finding that relaxation that's going on in your mind. It's so difficult on some days not to have a pity party. You just really look at the issues and you say, whoa, I'm really going through a pile of whatever, and I got to get out of this, because if I get sucked down in the quicksand, I'm going to have some real difficulty getting out. And so I tend to try and find strategies, little tiny things like olives and mustard that I can do that just gives me a little pep, a little boost that helps to alleviate not alleviate, but stop some of the monkey chatter that's going on.
I love that. I love that, Dave. And, it's so important to be easy on ourselves. And, we get so hard on ourselves saying our bodies have failed us and we don't trust our bodies anymore. And, if we could just be easier on ourselves and you just made me think, one of the other things, I could give you another hint, is and it sounds funny, but to be grateful and to show love to all of your body parts. I mean, or as many as you want, but it's, just to say, I'm going to start with my stomach, and you could rub your stomach, thank you so much, stomach, for making me making me feel like, you know, I'm listening to my gut, and for being there for me and helping me digest my food, and just that you appreciate your body, because we don't do that enough. And like Gina said, you know, our cells, we have cell memory. Our cells know what is going on. So if we treat ourselves with love and kindness like we do our friends and other people that we love, we will be a lot better off.
Because it is about mindfulness, right, Gina? I mean, you've talked about that on the show, being self-aware and mindful.
And you guys are just making me think of something that I posted the other day. So, you know, we're talking about positive mindset, which is great and amazing, but it's okay to be like, I was having a really funky couple of days. And I put it out there on Facebook that I was having like a funky moment, because I wanted everybody to realize that, you know, I'm not just the happy coach, you know, I'm a human being, and I have my days too. And it's okay to be there, because, and then I kind of turned it into a, you know, laughing matter, because I was kind of cheering myself on, because then I said, well, you know, this is the way I roll. Let me just take this as something good, because that seems to be my default, to create new beginnings out of funkiness. And, you know, and really there is no light without darkness. But so where I want to tie this into what Hayley was saying was, you know, so I got some comments and interaction when I posted it, and I gave one of the people who was interacting hugs, and she actually responded and said, you know, I know you love to give hugs. You should actually give one to yourself today. So hug yourself. And that's another good thing, you know, Hayley, you know, so, you know, what you said about placing your hands on your stomach or whatever, but just giving yourself a hug, telling yourself that you love yourself, looking in that mirror every morning. And so difficult. I've actually given this to a couple of clients as an assignment, but looking in the mirror in the morning and staring and seriously telling that person in the mirror that you love them.
Yes.
And that's a journey, though. I mean, that's not something you can easily do. And I can really relate to it, because I lost over 100 pounds and was down to sticks and bones. And I lost my identity. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror anymore. I didn't see myself anymore. And what I saw, I didn't like anymore. And it took a long time to put the weight back on and get more of a healthy style to my body that I could recognize me again. And yet you're right, in that period of losing my identity, body image was so important. I wish I had had a Hayley or a Gina with me to show me how to appreciate what I was dealing with, how to deal with it. And it would require a coach, not necessarily a counselor. And that's one of the questions that Steffi brought up. I copied it so I could get it on the screen. We've got to put a /Q in order to get the questions to show up on the screen. She's really asking both of you, you know, is there a distinction between coaching and counseling?
I'll pass that over to you first, Hayley, and then I'd love to comment on it as well.
Okay. Well, yes, absolutely. There is a difference. And when someone, you know, has depression and major anxiety and things that when I'm helping them and I don't feel that what I can do is enough, then I will send them to a counselor. I have many in the community that I can refer them to. But with coaching, it's really being one who asks the right questions for them to start helping themselves, for them to realize that it's nothing that I can do for them. They have to do it for themselves. So that's kind of how I differentiate the two. You know, Gina, what do you
so that's so true. Like, so you're there to ask the empowering questions to open up awareness for them. And, you know, so how I define the differences. So therapy or counseling, like you said, if somebody has, you know, major anxiety or they're not functional, you know, a lot of therapy would thoroughly benefit that, because a lot of that deals with what's in the past. Whereas coaching deals with people who are functional but looking to get to optimal living. So, for example, with our cancer patients, they're at place, or stage A, and they're looking to get to stage B, but, we have this, what we call the gap that's in between, and a lot of people don't know how to get there. They're in this one place, they're having a cancer experience wherever they are with it, and they want to, create a healthier way of living, and they don't know how to do it. So that's the process that we take them through. And again, so it's what's happening in the future and how you can create action to get where you want to go, not necessarily staying in the past. Although, as coaches, we do touch on the past, because a lot of, some of the stuff that we bring to the present is based on old patterns and beliefs.
Yes, absolutely.
This is a great discussion, and for those of you that are watching and you want to participate, I've just opened up the extra seat available now. So just click on the call-in button, and I will connect you in, and you can ask questions directly to Gina and Hayley, because we're really talking about how do you reclaim not just your health, but your life. So often, it's a recognition that you've had cancer and you're no longer healthy, you're with dis-ease, and you're now trying to deal with the treatment program. And at some point, you start to think about your health. And as Hayley was saying, recurrence, when am I going to have to deal with cancer again? Does the word cancer-free really mean anything? That was one of the things that came out on that podcast I was listening to at lunch, which got me to give my happy olive mustard smile, because there was a lot of people really in fear about recurrence, and they hadn't wrestled with what that journey could be. And now you really want to come into dealing with your new life, your new beginning, finding your new normal. And it's very difficult to do that. But Steffi wants to join us, and let's see if we can do something that's super fragilistic expialidocious.
Boom!
Hey, Steph. Boom.
Hey, you guys. Good
How
to see
are
you. I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good.
Hayley, hey. So good to see you. So one of my questions is, it has to do, like you all were just addressing, counseling versus coaching. So let's look at coaching, and how do you market yourself as a coach? Credentialing, are you guys licensed through a licensing board with the state, or does the certification come through programs like IPEC? And that's, if you could address that. I don't know much about the process in terms of certification from a coaching standpoint, nor do I know about the licensing components. And what impact does that have? How do survivors find you?
So if you want, I'll take that first, Hayley. So Steffi, there's no licensing in coaching. I think there's a possibility it'll ultimately get there. But so I have my certification through a school called IPEC, Institution for Professional Excellence in Coaching. But then I'm also credentialed with the International Coach Foundation, which is really the governing body for coaches. So, sort of, policing and making sure that you are, practicing the core competencies. So sort of following you in way of licensing, but there's not a license per se, just certifications. And I do have to say, I personally think sometimes that hurts the coaching industry, because, some people, for example, like, I go to a lot of hospitals, to try and reach out and find my clients, and they prefer to, they may, either welcome me depending on their open-mindedness, and realize that there's more out there for patients, or they might say, I'm sorry, but, because of red tape or bureaucracy or whatever it is, we only deal with social workers, and, maybe it's a legal thing. But coaching is definitely becoming an upcoming field in the healthcare industry, and there are a lot of hospitals and cancer communities that are opening themselves up to it. Where people find us, social media, referrals, friends, just getting yourself out there on, mediums like this, like Blab, Facebook, getting out there, doing speaking engagements. I've been in a couple of magazine articles. People write books all the time. Hayley, what do you have to add to that? Or on my coaching community, just so many ways to get out there.
Yeah, and I am certified by the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. So I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and that is through SUNY Purchase College in New York. And I get my clients word of mouth, social media, and I'm learning a lot more about social media through all of you. Referral partners is a big one. So that's pretty much how I'm getting my clients. And I do a newsletter. I was going to say blog, but it's a newsletter to get out to my community and that. And that's pretty much it right now. And Blab. So I'm grateful for this platform.
Another question. There's no reimbursement available to you all as coaches. Is that correct? So this is all private pay.
I think some, I really am not 100% sure on this, but I think some healthcare plans are bringing it in, most of them not, so really, so I ask it's really about, for me, I want to work with people who want to be coached and who want to invest in themselves. If they can't afford me or don't think they have enough value for that, that's fine. That's their choice. I learned a long time ago in my later 20s and 30s when I had severe anxiety and depression that, all the money in the world wouldn't solve any health issues or mental health issues that I was having. So screw money, and, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to invest it in myself. So, I really think it's all about value and priorities.
And it does depend on the level of service that you're providing.
I mean, it's valuable service. I mean, you look at the cancer experience, and it's financially devastating for some people. And so, I mean, like with law, is there a component of each of your practices that is pro bono? And what is the going range for coaching services? If that's an appropriate question.
Yeah, no, and I'll let Hayley take over because I want to hear what you have to say. So I will meet people where they're at. I have a certain rate that I charge, but if I have a connection with someone, I would either do a pro bono or at a discounted rate. When I do speak at hospitals, a lot of it is for free, doing workshops and things like that. So I do give back a lot. That's a way for me to get clients. And I was a fundraiser for 14 years, so I don't have any trouble giving back. But it is a business for me, and it is a means to create income. And people do have money for it. However, I do give back, and I do pro bono and offer discounts. So I basically meet my clients wherever they are. So, and that's just me. But also, I have to hold on to my value.
Oh, absolutely. Hayley?
Yeah, so I really do a program. So I have a 6-month program, and then if someone can't afford the 6-month program, then I do a monthly retainer kind of fee. So it's basically they would pay each month and then let me know when they want to stop. So the 6-month program, they pay upfront at a certain rate, and if they can't do that, then they pay a monthly rate that may be a little higher. That's
I'm going to pop off so that people can pop in. Continue to. I just don't want to hold the chair, so I'm going to pop off, but I'm still listening.
Thanks for coming on, Steph.
Yeah, you have to be very creative because there's a role for a psychiatrist and a psychologist. There's a role for a social worker, and there's a role for a coach. And what we're finding is some of the survivor clinics are embedding all 3 levels of practitioner into the intervention program, depending on need, and some of it being covered by billable programs, some being covered by health benefit plans. In fact, I know of a psychologist who bills a rate through their healthcare plan, but uses a coach in order to implement the actual change work. Because you've got to remember that in therapy and counseling, you're not really making the life changes that a coach would do. The coach is moving you forward. You know, it's like if my dietitian and nutritionist at the hospital told me everything I needed to know about changing my diet, eating properly, taking care of my new life. But 3 years later, I still struggle because I haven't worked with a coach on a day-by-day, week-by-week basis to actually make the changes happen. So there was a need for information, which comes under billable codes. And then there's implementation that a coach can do that sometimes it has to come out of your pocket. But I'm finding that a lot of health plans are looking at that as a new service to be included because they do want to keep the person out of the return to the hospital and keep the medical costs down. In fact, a couple of the recent studies I've shown is that working with a coach actually lowers the rate of recidivism, re-enrollment back into the hospital plan. So they're finally discovering that a coach does have really good, strong medical value to the system and isn't just an external one. So it's about, coaches educating the other practitioners as to where they fit and what it is that can be done in order to afford the cost.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of clients who've been sponsored by their employers, which I think is an amazing thing because it shows a way of them supporting them. And, some employers say, however long it takes for you to help this person, we'll continue to pay. So how amazing is that in terms of support?
That's wonderful.
And certainly you've got to look at that costing issue that everyone raises immediately. Oh, the person's under cancer treatment. The costs are excessive. They're going to be bankrupt. They can't pay for their drug plan. There's huge financial issues. And they're right. For 46 to 48% of cancer patients, this is an upfront real issue, but it still leaves 50% of cancer patients who, yes, are aware of the financial burden, but it doesn't stop them from buying the services that they want. In fact, that group are the ones that are saying, well, I need a cancer coach, but maybe I'll go on my cruise in the Caribbean. They have disposable wealth. And so the coach or the social worker or the therapist may have to, show the value of the service that says, this is better for you than perhaps what you think a cruise is going to do for you. So yes, cost is an upfront issue for a large proportion of patients, but not all patients. And I found that in both Canada, United States, the UK, and now I'm talking to some people in Australia. It's a universal issue that not everybody is unavailable to get treatment or coaching services. And if they need it and they can't afford it, they can find other sources. I've got a friend who actually bundles their coaching service as part of a gifting program for their family. So instead of the family paying for your telephone or paying for your clothing or your food, they build a gift certificate program that the family, friends, and so forth can put a donation in that covers the cost of the coach to get the person moving forward. So it's about creativity of how do you find the dollars in order to make the service available to everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so true, Dave, because, I'm so glad you brought that up because it's funny, some people, as you said, they'll always find the money for something, whether it's a habit they have or, whatever it is, they are always going to find that money. And, like you said, for people who really are strapped, there are other free services out there. And I just totally lost my train of thought.
Well, that's the active text chat along the side. You're looking at everything that's going on. We're getting so many different guests joining us into the afternoon session. I really like what we do on Wednesdays because it's so casual and we just get to talk about the flow of the conversation. It's, it's really just a video talk show. You bring the interesting people on and we talk about the things that the audience thinks are important to discuss. And this area of, I love the term, reclaiming your life. That's an action statement. And it took me months and months and months before that even made any sense to me, because certainly my journey was one of lots of fear, lots of anxiety, loss of control, loss of independence, fear that death was going to be around the corner. And so to move through all of that and say, wait a minute, I've got a new beginning. I've got to find my new normal. I've got to reclaim Dave or recreate Dave or do something to get Dave to exist again, because I lost the old Dave. And I love that when I talk to other patients in the hospital, there's an belief at the beginning that you can go back to who you were. And I have not met yet a cancer patient, and the two of you jump in. Have you ever met a cancer patient who does get to go back to where they were? We all seem to be catapulted forward into new directions, new beginnings, new ways of living, new attitudes, new values. We just don't go back. Absolutely.
I think we're continuing to learn and grow. And, like I've said before, whenever there's darkness, there has to be light at some point. So, it's about moving forward and taking little tiny steps, even when it seems impossible. Just getting out of bed might be a big deal. It might take a lot of energy, and celebrate that. Celebrate that you got out of bed today. Again, we're so hard on ourselves. People could just be so hard on themselves. So, it's just those little things that add up, and eventually.
And that's a message to the caregivers, because the caregivers don't understand really what the patient is dealing with. And when the patient does get out of bed, that's a big deal. It's not to the caregiver, they give you a pat in the back and say, great, I'm glad you're able to get out of bed. But for the patient, that is a milestone event. In the journal that they're writing, they're going to circle that over and over again. I got out of bed. Mm-hmm. And the caregiver has to understand that it's those little baby steps that help the patient, reclaim their life. And that can go on in many different ways as a survivor. It isn't insignificant at all, and yet it can be from the outsider looking in.
Yeah, and I believe, so getting back to that, can you get back to your normal or your for
self?
Me, it was, I feel like I'm better than before, almost what Hayley said, like you feel better now, right, than you did in your 20s and 30s. And I don't necessarily think that's in relation to my body, because I can't do things that I used to be able to physically, but definitely in my mind's eye, I at 50 years old, I feel the best I've ever felt before. And I think that comes with mindset and confidence, and just based on all the experience that we've been through.
Hey, Scott, good to see you join in today.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Can hear you perfect.
Like going back before, who would want to go back to pre-matcha tea days?
That's right. You have 8 matcha a day, don't you?
Yeah, I just got my latest shipment of matcha direct from Japan.
Wow.
This stuff is supposed to be the ceremonial grade stuff. And I'm almost done with the other matcha, and I'm going to start with this. And who would want to go back to those days where you knew what matcha? Who knew what matcha tea was?
Well, you're a big
hey, Scott, can we smoke that? What do you got in there?
We need to do a commercial.
So the dietitian here, Hayley? Hayley, are you a teetotaler?
So I do have
Brace yourself for Scott,
in my cupboard. It's in my cupboard as we speak. High in catechins and very anti-cancer.
You have all that stuff in your cupboard?
Lots of antioxidants. I do. I have matcha tea in my cupboard.
I'm impressed.
But she only drinks it once a year. I mean, it's one thing.
Oh, every day. Except I don't drink 8 a day. One a day.
No, I read this guy's book, who is at 8 cups a day, and lots of tomato sauce, cooked tomato sauce for the lipocene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and his oncologist on the QT told me that he attributes this guy's where he's at to his lifestyle change. So, get yourself, you guys are talking about promoting coaching, and get yourself hooked up with a big comprehensive cancer institute and just offer your coaching. The doctors need the coaching, first of all.
Scott, you got to hook us up, Scott. Come on.
Absolutely.
We need you to be our liaison. What's going on here?
The doctors need the coaching. So
next time you go to your appointments, I want you to have a talk with those doctors.
We're going
Tell them to contact
what
us.
I would like to do is get your blab, this cancer blab, on the front page of some major, like Sloan Kettering. There should be no reason they open up that site to people like us talking about cancer survival.
I was treated at Sloan, Scott, and I actually approached them about coaching, and for legal reasons and their own red tape, they don't welcome it in, unfortunately. But eventually, ultimately, maybe they'll see the benefit of it.
Absolutely. If enough patients talk to them about it.
And there are, I know Cancer Treatment Centers, is it Cancer Treatment Centers of America? There's one big hospital that's very open to coaching. So, hopefully they'll be the lead for others.
Yeah. So I support it. I'll put the decal on my car, and run around.
Good. I got to send you a T-shirt, Scott.
Certainly the blab is just a different kind of support network. It's another way of supporting the patients, empowering the patients. So if coaching services implementation is different than as Scott is saying, let's just get information in front of the patient. Certainly my big picture is I want to see people in hospital actually opening up their smartphones. And they get some positive reaction to it. I mean, I certainly, in my last visit last week to the clinic, they were very curious that you could have people coming into a blab and discussing openly issues. And I said, we're not talking about medical issues. We're talking about coping issues and lifestyle change issues. It's not moving into the oncology space. And so they were open to that kind of, input once they understood it. So it's up to us and other coaches to talk about it. And we're almost at the top of the hour. So maybe, Hayley, you could wrap up a little bit about Revive Wellness, because I think you have something that a number of people would like to know more about. How will they find you? And if they do find you, what will you be able to do to introduce them to what you might be able to do to help?
Well, they can contact me at revivewellness.com. And for everyone listening in, I want to offer them a 45-minute cancer-free breakthrough session where we will talk about your unique situation and discover the number one thing stopping you from having the peace of mind that you're looking for, and give you action steps to help you move forward. And you'll complete this session knowing exactly what you want to do next to move forward to a cancer-free, vibrant you. So anyone could just go to my website and hit the Start Today tab, or I think it's Start Now tab. And you can just leave your information. And then I just also wanted to mention that I have a seven top tips to keep cancer away. And that's also on my website. You just have to enter your email address, your name and email address, and you will get that free copy. So I am so grateful for you having me today, Dave and Gina, and it was a great conversation, and I hope there's more to come. There's always a lot more to talk about.
And I want to reinforce that what you're offering is not a sales pitch. It is not talk to Hayley and she's going to try and sell you service. She is being very generous with her time, knows that there are some issues that in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, she can help you move forward. And that's what she's offering to you. And her tips PDF is a useful document to get you started as well. So don't hesitate to go over to revivewellness.com. And Hayley, make sure that you put that URL in the text chat so that people who are watching the replay can see it there and click on it and come over to your website. And Gina?
Yes, and people can find me at newbeginningswithgina.com. I also offer free discovery sessions. You can get access to those on my website as well. And so like Hayley, I want to work with someone who wants to improve their life. So that's why I offer the discovery session to kind of open them up and let them know what coaching is. And then, it's up to them to make the decision on whether or not they want to proceed. So, the choice is theirs. I want to work with people who are committed and want to change their lives.
And it begins with information like we're doing today. And Hayley, thanks very much for coming in and, responding to all our strange questions. I warned you that we wouldn't be staying to the questions that you and I talked about, but we'd be flowing with the conversation. And that's what's really important. That for those of you that aren't aware, Anti-Cancer Club also has a blab on cancer. It's All Things Cancer, and it's on Sunday afternoons at 1 o'clock Pacific, which I guess is 4 o'clock Eastern. And this week, they're bringing a good friend of ours, Tracy Maxwell, on, talking about being single with cancer. Tracy's a remarkable lady. I think all of us here today know of Tracy and her journey and her book. I can't believe it. She's the only person who's written a book on being single with cancer. And it just so strange. It's such a big, important topic. So if you get to the Anti-Cancer Club on Sunday, they're on Blab. You just go to blab.in/Anti-Cancer Club, and you'll see the replays that they're doing on Sundays. So be a follower of Anti-Cancer Club. You're going to enjoy at least two of us now talking about cancer in a interactive, social way. Very relaxed, non-oncology, but dealing with the issues that I'm sure so many of you are facing. So let me thank everyone for coming. I'm going to go off camera now, but we'll stay online because some people are shy and don't want to be on camera, but do have questions. So
I do see here, it says Vicky says, can I come in? Did you see that?
Yeah, we'll let her come in as soon as we get off of the recording.
Oh, I see. So, okay. Just wanted to make sure. Look,
so don't go away. We're still here. We're just going to get off the formal recording. So thanks all for being here, and we'll see you again next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we'll carry on our discussion. So thanks very much for joining us. See you again.